And welcome to episode 2 of season 2. Tonight we're joined with a guest here. Here we go. I really need to learn how to edit this a little bit better so I can get better, but I'm just going to be me. It's off the cuff. Um, we're joined tonight by James Puckett, and that's with a P, Puckett. Still going to say, not trying to be rude about your last name, but we'll stick with James. Um, so, anyway, we're welcome to Behind the Anvil as we sit down with James and talk about where he come from, how he got into knife making, and some awesome stories on between there. And we're just going to let her roll. So, real quick, James, if you'd go ahead and just walk us in on, give us a little brief bio about yourself and start it on the journey of you.
So I'm 53 years old. I was born in San Angelo, Texas, and raised in Andrews, Texas.
Texas is a beautiful state.
I love it. Been here my whole life.
Well, if Texas had mountains like mine, like we have here, I'd probably move, but it's a little too flat, still gorgeous, but still a little too flat for me.
We
So
have mountains. Have you never heard of the McDonald Observatory in the Fort Davis Mountains?
we'll go with that. We not mountains like we got. So
Okay. I
uh,
have driven a truck through your mountains, so I know.
so there you go. 10,000 feet elevation. There you go. That's mountains there.
My last driving of a semi truck, I come through the mountains in a blizzard, so I understand.
Oh, I did a lot of that. I started truck driving in 2005 up till about 2020. And I saw an opportunity to get out of it, and I took it and I ran with it. So, yeah.
When when you work in the oil industry, you have a backup plan. And so when the oil field is garbage, I go driving.
So, walk us through what it was like to grow up in a small west town of Texas, and how did it shape you and set you on the path where you are today?
Rangers is a community of about 13,000 people. Was a dry county growing up. The only things to do in Andrews was chase girls, fight, and drink.
Sounds like Sevier County.
Lots of drinking, lots of fighting. Of course, I'm not a drinker anymore, but we did a lot of rowdy things. Of course, growing up in the 80s was a lot different than it is now. You know,
Oh,
if you got caught out, the worst they'd do is make you pour out your beer, send you
yeah.
home.
Today they'd arrest the kid, impound this, impound that, and charge up the woo wow. And yeah, depending on who was the sheriff at the time. I remember when I was growing up there through the 90s. I was born 85. And they go have their little parties out in the hill for graduation, and then the cops would sneak in and bust them, and they're underage drinking, and a little bit of marijuana. It was real pathetic for a couple of for that for it's just dumb. They're camping, they're not going anywhere. Leave them be.
And I think our society is to blame for a lot of that. You know, it didn't kill us to have a few drinks and you know raise a little bit of hell.
Yes,
But
sir.
now everybody's a caring about everything, and you kids can't be kids. Kids can't have fun. You can't spank your child to punish them when they act a fool. It's just a different world we live in.
Right. Um, like I said, I grew up in the early 90s. I'm older than Google, so the 90s were my area, first early 2000s and such. Um, yeah, thank God we didn't have one of these with a camera on it growing up, especially the early 2000s.
Definitely.
If somebody had a video camera, like, hey, burn that tape. Um, but just like I said, I'm trying to be professional. So I have questions today. So again, I'm gonna have to read. I can't memorize all this all the time. So how did starting out in the drilling fields on the rigs and such at 19 influence and help shape your work ethic today? Look at me try to use big words, folks. I apologize. One of these days I'll get it right.
So In Andrews, most of it's oil industry. But I actually at 18 started working for Kirby vacuum cleaner plant. A bit of trivia, Kirby only has two plants in the world. One is in Andrews, Texas. And so I worked at Kirby for a brief time, and I had a lot of friends that, you know, kept telling me for my with my attitude and big mouth and I was pretty burly. They said you belong on a drilling rig. And one day I got mad at the supervisor and walked out, got a job on a drilling rig.
Nice.
And
Kirby vacuums. That was a good vacuum back when they made it here in the USA, huh?
yeah. And you know, breaking out on a drilling rig in 1989, it was it was almost Wild West. It was the guys that work for me now tease me about wooden derricks, but we did a lot of things. I have people that I know now that a preacher I know. He always asks about. He wants to see my hands because he doesn't know anybody worked in the oil industry as long as I have and have all 10 fingers. Yep, it's a very dangerous industry, and it's gotten better. We've learned to be safer, better equipment, got rid of some of the things that maimed people. My father-in-law had is missing a big toe because of a drilling rig.
Ouch.
So it's and you know when I one part of your question is the work ethic. If you didn't show up for work, you didn't have a job. And a driller would go around. Your rig may be 70, 80, 90, 100 miles from the house, and the boss would go around, pick everybody up, and drive to the rig, and you'd work an 8-hour shift and you'd drive home. If you wasn't ready to get in that car, somebody else would have your seat. And
Get
you
get
know,
in, get on board or get out.
and one of the sayings they always had is, if you can't get it, you can't stay.
True.
And so that was my learning and what drives me now.
So that's the beginning of how you've kind of forged yourself on the path of life to where you're going through. Um, God, I had a question, an extra question just popped up in my head. I apologize. Um, from there, you said you did a little bit of driving, I guess, after a while. How did you get into driving as well?
So in 2014, the oil industry got real slow, and I had an uncle that lives in Kentucky that I talked to him about going to one of the driving schools, and he talked to one of his bosses and to the owner of the company, and they said, "Come to Kentucky, and we'll teach you how to drive." Never driven in my life, so they put me in a truck. The first 3 weeks I was in the truck, I did nothing but back into spots in his lot. He told me, if you can't back a trailer, I don't need you.
Fair
And
enough.
I
Kind of,
spent a year working for Keyboard Carriage out of Elizabethtown, Kentucky, and the only things they hauled were motorcycles and pianos.
nice. So
Isn't that a crazy combination?
yeah, that's interesting. A little bit of gears and a little bit of keys. I know there's some kind of joke in there. I probably murdered that. So
But it was a
um,
great experience. And then went back to the oil field when it was available. And then during COVID, I had to drive again. And I drove through Utah and up into Oregon driving produce. And I'd bring apples down from Oregon and take cold cuts up there. You know,
that's nice. I started out on the coal haul here, and probably if you ever been across I-70s, seeing the Rocky Mountain belly dumps and such that they call them, and I ran that for quite a few years on and off. Then I got another job. I worked for flatbedding and ran FedEx triples and such. So up to, like I said, 2021. No, it was end of 2020, about November. I got a lead on a different job, and my finances and everything else were where I could take a a lower paying job because the knife business was doing pretty good as well. And I mean, it slowed down but it was doing pretty good, even with all the BS and hiccups through 2020. Um, so I really wish I
So
would have buckled down and done this a little bit more then than been ahead of the game quite a bit. But that's all right. But jumped into a different company working for firearms manufacturing and went from there. But yeah, the trucking part, I had enough of it. 15 years. I've been out of the truck for five. So woohoo! So
it's an honest way to make a living.
yeah. So you were saying earlier, when we were talking about before, you give me some information. So tell us a little about the moment when you were at the Odessa gun show and it sparked your interest in knife making. How what drew you into this world of because once you get hooked onto this, it kind of drags you along, and next thing you know, you spent tens of thousands of dollars in equipment and all sorts of stuff, and
So even when I was young, I always had a fascination with knives, even more so than guns. One of my first tattoos growing up was a knife,
nice.
and I was a young driller in 99, 98 or 99, and went over to the gun show in Odessa, and there was a gentleman there. He had 15 or 20 knives on his table, and I picked up every knife. I looked at them, asked questions, and I wasn't making a lot of money trying to raise a family, and his prices were fair, but I just didn't have the money. So I knew a girl that her dad had a handmade knife. I called Chuck, and he said, "Well, this knife was made by Carl Duchesne, and Carl's passed on, but his son Dwayne makes knives." And he said, "Find Dwayne, talk to him. I think you guys get along pretty good." So, and at that time, I went into a hardware store, and in those days, they take business cards and put under plexiglass on the counter of the hardware stores and places like that. And I happened to see Dwayne's card.
Nice.
So I called Dwayne up, and he invited me to his house, showed me all his pictures, showed me his shop, and invited me to come and learn. And Dwayne and I are still close friends. Talk to him 3, 4 times a week. Go to his house all the time. Just because of Dwayne, I've met guys like Johnny Stout, and Harvey Dean, and some of those, and been to their hammer in, and just the community that the knife making world opened to me was unbelievable. When I first stepped into it, I thought, a few people, a little hobby, and it was amazing how big the world was of knife making.
Yes, sir.
And, you know, 99% of the guys out there are willing to teach, willing to, you know, sit down and talk to you, but there's just a very few people that think what they are doing is top secret. And just, you know, I love the people in this world. It's been an amazing trip for me.
So let's step back a little bit. Back when you got connected with
Dwayne Duchesne.
Dwayne, and I knew they were started with a D. I just trying to pull that name up. So names and faces are terrible on. So let's step back. Let's that first meeting or first class or got into it, kind of. And I've been there. I grew up around it. My dad's a knife maker. I've been surrounded by blacksmith and knife making my whole life. I didn't start. I played on a forge on and off when I was growing up. Burned a lot of shit up. Um, I think I started playing on the forge like 3, 4 years old. Burnt myself a lot. I can remember those times. It's like, oh, that's hot. It doesn't matter if it's red. It's still gonna be hot, and you learn that quick. You don't do it again. But let's circle back here and get into that experience. Kind of describe what you went through, beginning as a knife maker, working through him and under him, and tell us a little bit how he shared his way of making.
Dwayne does at that time was mostly slip joints. Was starting to get into the liner locks. He had a 20 by 20 shop. Most of his tools were handmade tools, and you know, he gave me a key the very first day. He said, "Come in, you know, if you tear it up, just fix it." was and very. I'm not as meticulous as Dwayne is. Dwayne, if if the scratches aren't all running the same way, and he'll spend hours sanding on a blade and just make some of the most beautiful knives. And he took me in there and said, "Okay, here's a chunk of steel, and this is how you grind." And you know, he walked me through step by step. Was very meticulous. Uh, you know, learned so much of this world because of Dwayne. And
So what?
we
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
and as I said earlier, he at that time there was a hammering coming up at Johnny Stout's, and he said, "Hey, you want to go? We'll go get a motel down in Kerrville or New Braunfels actually, and we'll go to Johnny's Hammer Inn." And you know, we went to the Hammer Inn and met some amazing people, Johnny and Harvey Dean and some of those guys, and it's just been a whirlwind ever since.
So what kind of what was your first knife you made? Tell us about that. Describe it.
Oh, that thing was terrible. It was a big old fixed blade, quarter-inch steel. I have begged my father-in-law to let me get that back from him. He still has it.
Yeah, I think he's
And
probably keeping a hold of that in case he needs to, be father-in-law type thing, keep you in line. Sorry, bad joke. But
but you could beat someone to death with it. It's just a massive chunk of steel. And had pack of wood handles, no bolsters, and that was my very first one. And I believe it was in '99.
did you hand forge that? The stock removal. What is your
Stock removal.
stock removal? Now, is that your style? Or do you do any forging nowadays? And
I've done a couple of forged blades. Went and did a class with Jeff Davidson in Fort Worth, and but most of my knives are stock removal.
nice.
I I took a piece of drilling line one time off of a drilling rig and took it to a. I got invited to go and do a demonstration at a church camp,
Hmm.
and so I took this piece of cable, and I had Bible verses and all of this stuff laid out, and described everything and forged out a knife out of that piece of cable. So that was a very cool experience for me, and the boys liked it. And we got to brand our missionary that day
Nice.
because, as you said, even though it ain't red, it's still hot. And I was talking to the boys, and I just taken it out of the fire and set it to the side. And missionary come up. I didn't see him. He come up behind me and picked it up. It didn't take him long to look at it.
I'll bet not. If you're smelling chicken, you got the wrong end. So, well, let's dive into that experience. Do you remember the Bible verses and everything you shared with the young man and when you're doing that? If you can call that up a little bit, I'd love to hear that.
So the verses themselves I don't remember, but I took the piece of cable and I put it in the fire, and it was a coal forge. One of my first experiences with a coal forge, and I
Oh,
got it just glowing hot. And I said, we got to burn off all the impurities and get this thing. And that's what Jesus does in our lives is cleanse the impurities. And then I fluxed it with some borax, and just step by step I had different verses. And I apologize, that was so long ago I don't remember.
it's okay. I kind of a on the spot kind of thing. I want to hear more about this. Please share. It's one of my goals here is also, talk about our faith and everything else. And if you want to dive into
And
that, let's do it.
when one of the parts I went through is when John the Baptist baptized Jesus, and he told his followers, he said, I baptize in water, but one that comes after me baptizes as fire. And I use that in my demonstration with the boys.
Nice. Very cool.
So, and faith is, and that was another thing that Dwayne was instrumental in because I was still a little bit rough around the edges when I first met Dwayne, and he, you know, been a big part of my walk with faith.
Yeah, do you mind sharing that with us?
Not at all. You know, me and my wife were fairly new. You know, we'd been married about 4 years, 5 years, just had a daughter. And I was raised in the church. My dad was an evangelist. He went down to Mexico preaching and stuff like that. So I'd been in the church most of my life. But, you know, through junior high and high school and just out in the oil fields, I kind of strayed away, and my wife was bringing me back into the church. And then when I met Dwayne, you know, him and his family were very big into the church. And so, you know, there was just one more mentor that I had that not only was he very involved with the knives, he was very involved with Jesus. And I can't stress enough how important it is to have those influences in our lives.
Amen. That's one thing I kind of find myself when I'm forging. I'll have either some music in the background or a talk show or um, I listen to Joe Rogan a lot, of Sean Ryan show, podcasts, a few others. Kind of I mix it up. I haven't been doing a lot of music lately, but um, I find and I don't know if you do the same, but I find myself I I just talk to God. I consider that's how I pray. I just talk to God. Unless it's real earnest stuff, then find that quiet place and get on my knees. But a lot of time I'll chat with the Almighty throughout the day, and it's kind of like ADHD talk. And my daughter came in a couple times. So, who are you talking to? I said, I'm talking to the Almighty. What's up? And oh, okay. So, but for me, when I'm forging and such, and I don't know if you've had this experience, such you kind of had a set um on a pattern of a knife or something like that. It almost seems like somebody takes over and that knife comes out a certain way that it's like it was almost predestined kind of way. I've had that a few times here and there, or as I'm forging knives, I'm sure I if have you ever had any experiences like that while knife making?
Absolutely. You know, you while you're grinding and you slip a little bit, and you know, a 7 inch chef knife turns into a 6.5 chef knife.
Been there.
But then you know, you put it on your table or you've got it handy, and someone walks up and says, "I want to, I want a 6.5. I don't want to, 7 inch is too much." And sometimes I believe God does things, whether they be little mistakes like that that turn out to be maybe divine intervention.
Right on. I love that. Um, so trying to see if so let's get into, we're talking about your mentors and everything else. How important was it to have your mentors and your teachers through that beginning stage of knife making, when, help you got to come back to your faith of gospel of Christ? Um, and walking through that, kind of walk us a little bit more through that journey, if you would.
I'm going to step back a little bit further than that. I'll go
That's
back to
fun.
one of my mentors that was on the drilling rigs, a gentleman named Hoss Crutcher. And when I met Hoss, he was in his mid 70s, and never I saw him outwork 30-year-olds. The guy was just Hoss. He worked, you know, was our boss out there, and he, lived on the rig, and nearly 24/7 he'd go in, take a 15-20 minute nap, and here come Hoss. But he I actually got to make him a knife out of drilling line from a rig that he'd worked on, and he had passed away 7 or 8 years ago, and I had wondered what had happened to that knife. And I happened upon his daughter in Tractor Supply, and I asked Dana what happened to that knife. She said, "Oh, we still got it." So I was very blessed that she took a picture of it, because I didn't have any pictures of it, and so now I have that picture of it.
No.
But other mentors that I've had in the knife making industry, of course, Johnny Stout and Harvey Dean have been great to me. You know, I can call those guys up and ask questions, and they've always got time for me. Uh, and of course, Dwayne and Weldon Whitley, another great maker that, you know, he'll drop what he's doing just to make sure I understand what I need to understand. And most of my mentors are stock removal guys. Of course, Harvey Dean does the forged blades, but you know, they not one of them have ever been rude or hateful. They have said, "Hey, can I get back to you on that? I'm right now. I'm right in the middle of something." But the community that is the knife making world is amazing.
Oh yeah, and like I said, I grew up. I guess I was kind of naive to it a little bit, and my circle was kind of small at the time because I worked at my dad's shop. Um, I knew a few of the guys from around here in Sevier County, the big names, Buster Warnski, Jim Entz growing up, Johnson, Young, Jenkins, those guys around here from Utah, Central Utah. Some of the I'm not familiar, not sure if you're familiar with them names. Them guys have been around for quite a while, especially Buster and Jim Mance. They were my dad's mentors, and there's like a big thing. So for me, and then through the years of working, knife making, working out of my dad's shop. I didn't get my shop until about 2013, my own place, which was actually original shops where my dad started, because this property was my parents before we sold it in '93, and I bought it back in 2013 by luck of the draw. Um, I think there was some divine uh, to get to where I am today, where I'm living at, because before that, I bought a house and didn't. Maybe we lived there for 2 years. We ended up losing it in the crash of 2008. Kind of hopped around for till about 2013, and this by dumb luck we lucked into this place. Well, I lucked into this place at the time. Um, and I've been here for over 10 years now. So it's kind of me, kind of, I look back, it's like, okay, I wasn't supposed to be there, wasn't supposed to be there. Now I am where I'm at. And yeah, so I'm here to this day. So I think there was a little bit of divine intervention in that, and that kind of along the plan. But to tie that into was, Forge and Fire really opened my network up. I was just starting to get into establish myself and build my shop up and stuff like that. But after doing Forge and Fire and then going to Blade Show, the world opened up big time. I don't. Did you ever be on Forge and Fire, or did you ever get there? Or
No, I never even applied for it.
that's all right. It was fun. I'm glad I went and did it because, as a kid or something like that, you wouldn't catch me in front of on a stage or in front of anybody else. I had stage fright like no other. So that gave me a little guts to go ahead and do my LLC, and 7 years later, here I am full time. Um, it's been quite a journey. Um, so are you full time or part time on your knife making it to where you are, or
I'm part time. I still work on the drilling rigs, and I'm fortunate to work a schedule that I work. I'm away from home for 2 weeks, and I'm home for 2 weeks.
nice,
So for half a month, I get to play in the shop.
nice. So so we're back in there. The 2000 you've gone through. You're working through your mentors. What style of knife did you really kind of set on that? This is what I want to make. Um, Describe that process, getting into it, getting your own equipment. I'm sure by then you've caught the sickness like the rest of us have. I call it a sickness, but it's a real good sickness, though. You could have worse hobbies. Um, so, so kind of
Up,
walk us through that.
up until recently, most of my knives were uh, hunting knives and everyday carry. Would only make 2 or 3 knives a year until a year and a half ago. Raising a daughter, building a career, doing all the different stuff. I just didn't make many knives. And then I decided I wanted to learn how to make kitchen knives. because I like to cook and, just something I felt comfortable exploring. So, as a member of the Texas Knife Makers Guild, I applied for a scholarship that they offer every year and was one of the two that was awarded the scholarship. I reached out to Chris Jones. He had never given a class or done anything like that, but I asked him if he'd be willing to give me a class. I'd give him the scholarship plus a little bit, and he said, "Yeah, let's do it." And I tell those around me, the answer is always no until you ask the question.
Right.
And so I went down to Tomball, where Chris lives, and spent 3 days in his shop, and was an amazing experience. I count Chris as another mentor. And I walked away with 3 completed knives, a new friend, and a new skill. And the friend part of it alone was worth more than any amount of money I could have given him.
Nice. I totally agree. So let's talk about that. Let's tell us about that experience when you went in there. How was his teaching skills and um yeah, walk us
So,
through that class. Sorry.
so, so after I was awarded the scholarship and I talked to Chris, we agreed that I would show up on Monday and 8 a.m. and we'd get started. And he asked what style I wanted to make, and we decided on a chef's knife and a petty. And we got there, and the original intent was to make 2 knives. While we were waiting on one to glue up, we'd be working on the other one. And by the end of day one, I had both of those in finish, close to being finished. So we started a third one. And at the end of day three, I had 3 completed knives. And, you know, I was amazed. He works out of a 2-car garage, and everything has a place. Unlike my shop where it's just
Small.
chaos. Yeah,
Yeah.
he is one of the most organized knife makers I've ever been around. Everything had a place. You know, you didn't waste a step. He has 2 grinders. They're side by side, and for a guy that had never taught a class, he was very good. He had done demonstrations at hammer ins and such, but very, very informative. He wasn't one of those, well, let me show you, let me fix this. No, he showed me on a piece of steel, and I grabbed mine, and away I went. It did help that I had, prior knife making experience, but I was a hollow grind guy. And everything I'd done was off contact wheels.
Mhm.
And here we are doing flat grinds. And I may have done one flat grind ever. So that was a little bit different than I was used to. And he taught me some really good little tricks to get your everything to blend in and look right. And we had actually, once when we decided that I had the opportunity to build 3 knives, I decided, okay, I want to be a Lone Star maker for the Texas Knife Makers Guild. So I used those 3 knives that I built there. And for the guild, in order to become a Lone Star maker, you have to present 3 knives to 3 judges. Typically, it happens at shows or hammer ins, but it's not the way it has to happen. In the history of the guild, there's been 2 people, one of them being me, that have actually went around the state finding judges that would judge the knives. So Chad Jones was local. He came to Chris's shop and did the first judging, and I was nervous. I knew I'd put a lot of effort into them, and I knew they should be right, but it was still nerve wracking because I don't think Chad could have turned those knives over anymore. He looked every little nook and cranny and judged them very fairly. And then I left when I went home on the way home, instead of going home 4.5, 5 hours, it took me about 8.5 hours because then I went over to just south of Austin in Buda, Texas, to James Hughes. And James judged my three knives. And then I left his shop and went up to Fort Worth and let Jeff Davidson judge. So the end of that week, I was a Lone Star maker.
Nice. That's awesome. So what kind of, I mean, I'm kind of familiar with the ABS on some of their stuff to get the journeyman, et cetera, on that. Describe the process of the three knives. Now, do they have a set of rules of what kind of knives you need to make, the process, et cetera, or is this just three knives that you got to pick out? Tell us how that process of becoming a Makers Guild member on the knives themselves.
So they can be any knives you want them to be. Plunge lines have got to be even. The you know, if you go can't have anything less than a 220 grit. And if you go up to 600 grit and they see an underlying 220 grit, they mark you off for that. And you know, handles got to be square or not square, but you know, no gaps. They got to be able to, you know, it's got to be razor sharp. Got to be able to shave hair. And you get, like I said, you take three knives, and through the judging, you have to get. And I don't remember off the top of my head what the minimum score is. I think it's 15 points, and I may be wrong about that, but the maximum score was 24 points, and all three of my knives came in at 21 points with all three
Nice.
judges.
Great. How long ago was this?
It was April of last year,
Oh, congratulations.
so
That's
it's
awesome.
just ain't even been a full year, and I didn't intend to become a Lone Star Maker because I didn't really see a lot of need for it because it's just a title.
Hmm.
But then I decided that I wanted to get on the board of directors with the TKG, and so that was part of the goal. I had to be a Lone Star Maker to achieve getting elected as a board member.
Plus, it's all, that's a good challenge there is yourself challenging your skills. Something I haven't done yet. I've been procrastinating about that, which is, I think honestly, procrastination is one of the qualifications to be a maker, right? Or a little bit of ADHD, at least
The
what
squirrel
I've seen.
moments are strong.
What's that?
The squirrel moments are strong.
Yes. And I know about, I've seen some other makers that have got their shop, they're nice and tidy and everything else. And I'm like, you walk in there, it's like, do I need to go back out and put a white suit on and come back in here? Um, there's guys that just they're really good. They do what they do and well organized. Not my shop. My shop gets probably cleaned two or three times a year, if it's lucky. Um,
I had the honor of going by Owen Wood's shop here recently, and I thought I'd stepped into an operating room. It was surgically clean.
Oh wow! I mean, you go look, you step in there. Like I said, I've stepped in a few guys' shop, and I go back, go home. Do you ever go home and clean your shop up and think, God, get in the shower, I'm dirty. Uh, um, I have this issue. When I set stuff down on my bench and everything, my bench is my bench. Nobody touches my damn bench. And if somebody had moved, literally a friend of mine was screwing around with me. He moved my hammer 6 inches from where I had it. Of course, me, memorization, that's where it screwed me up for 30 minutes. I spent 30 minutes looking for that hammer and literally was 6 inches away from where I put it. I was looking right at it and couldn't see it. Granted, my bench is not overly cluttered. I've seen benches that you got to pick up stuff, throw stuff in the trash. to find your stuff. I mean, mine's just it's cluttered, not overly cluttered. But it's everywhere where I know my tools are. And if you move something, I am screwed up for 20, 30 minutes to find that. Um, so that's my shop. I mean, you can get online, you just kind of see videos of it. And I don't know if you checked out, we did a kind of mini series called Beat the Smith, competitive with a couple of friends and my daughter. My daughter makes knives as well. She's 16. She does it when she decides that she really wants money now. When she was younger, she was a little more gun ho about it, but she has that skill. Not the greatest level, but she can go out there and turn out something pretty neat. But yeah, I mean, do you ever have that issue? Someone come move something in your shop, and you're like, look around, look around, look around.
Yeah, I don't have many people come in my shop because it's such a mess right now. I'm getting ready for the Oklahoma show in February, and I've got things scattered everywhere. After the show, I'm going to clean, I promise.
Oh yeah, getting ready for Texas Select or any of the other shows. I like to produce. Everybody's like, I can't believe you make so much. I kind of like to have a variety of knives when I go to a show. And the first time I went to Texas Select, I set on 40 knives. I'll never do that again, but I still did it again the next round. I had different sets and a set of knives and such, and yeah, that was kind of wild. And it's just everybody's like, "Why do you do so much?" Like, why not? I love doing it. I like to produce knives. And that Oklahoma show, I went to it here a couple of years ago. Haven't been back yet. Ended up taking a job later on that year for throughout last winter. Because things slowed down and everything. That's a great show. Sean and all them guys out there do an awesome job with that show. Would love to do it this year, but the funds just weren't there yet. So hopefully next year we'll be out there.
Well, it will actually be the second show I've done. I did stock the show at the Stockyard Cowtown. This last year was my first show to ever do, and that kind of lit a fire in me.
So, um, I mean, they do a really good shot. I mean, I went to the one where they were in the one outside Oklahoma. Now they're down in the Oklahoma Fairgrounds, if I remember correctly. Um, yeah, that was real fun because we had to cancel out right there towards the end, last hour, 2 hours. Heavy tornado warnings came in. We had to shut down, pack up, head out, and I just went back to the hotel and ended up hearing the sirens go off and everything else. I'm like, I wonder if I should head for the basement. Ah, screw it. I'll sit here and watch and see if a tornado comes in. Watching the TV in the background and watching the lightning because I love watching lightning. For some reason, we don't have the lightning shows out here in the West like we used to when I was growing up. Why that is, I don't know. But just watching that lightning and 3 miles away, 3 to 5 miles away, a tornado F2 or whatever it was, touchdown was churning up stuff. I'm like, if I get sucked out of a window, I get sucked out of a window. I guess they have a good story about me hanging out of a tree somewhere. But it's pretty country. But that was a fun show. Definitely gonna have to let me know how you do out there and how things go. Because I heard this last one they did last year at the same fairgrounds went really, really well for them. And I think they expanded it to a 2 day show now.
It is a 2 day show.
Nice. So you said you got into chef knives, kitchen cutlery. What particular kitchen knife do you like? What kind of style of chef knife do you like that makes you want? This is what your go-to.
I like it's a Western style. I like full tang knives because I'm lazy and don't want to mess with a hidden tang. And
Fair enough.
I like the Japanese, how the Japanese have the tip kind of, I guess it's a K tip. I'm
Yes,
not sure what that's called.
I think you're right. There are so many different parts and names, this, that, and the other. You can't remember them all. You're probably like me, and you just get in there. You know what you're doing. You make it, and somebody asks you a question. You're like, "Yeah, it's that one turn."
Uh, So because I like to cook and I cook brisket, I like to make the brisket slicers, a 12-inch blade, and you start out with 16th inch steel. And you talk about fun trying to get that long grind right.
Right? That is not, yeah, I've made a few brisket knives. Plus, being in Texas, you got to have a brisket knife. But they got some good barbecue down there. I've hit a few spots traveling through. I drive when I go to Texas because I'm an idiot and I like to drive for some reason. Getting that grind just perfect all the way across. And my plunge lines are on a slight 45. And from there forward on like you said, 16 to 18-inch blade. That is a challenge. And keeping your spine perfectly same thickness all the way across. I don't build many of them.
I like them because they are a challenge. Recently, I've started attempting to grind with a S grind, and I've had one failure and one that looks like it's going to turn out pretty good. And I've also attempted some daggers, and so far I hadn't gotten that one right yet.
Daggers are kind of my kind of hill. That S grind, I interviewed Spicy Mike, aka Michael Curley. He's from Illinois, and that's what he's working on is that S grind. And he described it to me, and I still can't imagine how it works. Would you describe that S grind to us a little bit? Maybe I can see it in my head, unless I get to somebody's shop and watch them do it. I'm still quite not sure the S grind. So you describe that for us?
What I'm doing is what Micah Dunn instructed me to do, and I'm doing a full flat grind and getting just about finished with my flat grind. And I'm using a little thicker steel. Most of my blades are 3/32, but I'm going 1/8 inch so that when you put your S grind in there, you're hollow, you're not burning through. And so you get your full flat and you get it nearly complete, get your edge thickness where you want it, which is pretty thin. And then you go in behind it. And I use a 14-inch contact wheel, and I'll come up half to 3/4 of an inch and put me a line. And I'll come off of the choil just a little bit and put a line. And then out at the tip, I put another line so that I don't go all the way out. And then I take that hollow grind from the spine all the way down to my line,
Okay.
and that and that dips it out so that when you're cutting your flat grind, all of a sudden you've got that dip, and so your food releases.
Okay. All right. So I was misunderstanding what Spicy was telling me. My mind had it completely backwards. Okay. Now, thank you. For some reason, was not following. I must not have been following along. No, I wasn't following because I thought the hollow grind was at the beginning and then the flat, and so my brain had it completely freaking backwards. That makes sense.
And that's how Micah Dunn told me how to do it. So if it's wrong, it's Micah's fault.
Knock on wood, right? So what kind of steel do you use for yours? I stick with high carbon steel. I like 1095. I like 5160, and I make my own Damascus. And speaking of drill cable, that's what I use. Cousin of mine brought me a bunch of it here, God, 7, 8 years ago. I used to use O1 tool steel and A36 steel. For my Damascus did 600 layer, and I got tired of it. Never really cared for it, to be honest with you. Never really cared for it. I just did it because that's what Dad did, and that's what I learned. But I got playing with that cable, and the challenge with cable is making it solid and look great. Some people say, "Oh, it's poor man's Damascus." It's like, well, it's really not any different than layering up billet of steel. It's already layered up. You got different strands of cable in there, different types of metal from the outer to the inner.
Until somebody's taken that cable and cleaned it and flexed it and twisted it tight and got it all good and tight and then made a bar out of it and cussed and throwed a couple of them across the shop. They don't understand. It is a true challenge to get cable to weld.
Yes, it is. I used to run a Coke forge, and now I'm running a Texas forge. Shout out to our Texas forge. Oh, I forgot to do this. Pause. Hold on. I forgot to do this because she's helping out, getting guests and everything, popping off names and contacting people for me. I'm going to do a big shout out to Emily Casting Craft. If you're looking for some awesome scales, custom made, one of a kind. Emily Casting Crafts on Facebook is your gal to get it. We had her on the podcast. So I totally, I got to get me some notes up here to remind me of my sponsor. She's our unofficial, official sponsor of our Behind the Anvil.
And Emily is awesome.
Yes. Did you listen to her interview? I
I
did.
did. I did. And
Oh,
learned a lot about Bulgaria and you know, we got I've been buying stuff from her for the last 2 years, and we got to meet her at Blade Show. I took her a cup of coffee and got my hug. Just really a sweet lady. You
yes, she
know,
is.
she helped John Theinert out, did auctions for him when his shop burned down, and she's always trying to give back to the knife community.
Yes, yes, she is. Yeah, she I was heading up to meet a young lady that I talked with. We went to go hang out. Me and my daughter and her daughters went and hang out, and she's messaged, "Hey, this person, this person, this person. I can reach out for you if you want." I says, "Yes, please." That's how she got us in touch with you. So, and again, big shout out if you're looking for some, if you're not, somebody wants a knife made and you're looking for a unique scale, handle scales, she does really good hybrids and a lot of other stuff. She's just does amazing stuff. That's Emily Castingcraft on Facebook. So check her out. I can't remember if she has a website yet.
She does
Okay. Do you remember what the website is?
casting crafts.
Castingcraft.com, I'm guessing. I'll have to put that out. So awesome. I forgot that. I'm sitting there thinking I need to put me a little board above my camera here so I can just look up and all right, this, and this. So I want to give her a
Well,
shout
they
out.
gave us the opportunity to talk about her.
Yes. I didn't, I knew she was from, when I was interviewing, since I knew she was from, I met her once in person at Blade Show, got to talk to her for a minute. But I didn't get to spend much time with her. I want, but I'm hoping to catch up with her soon in the future. She's a wonderful lady. But hearing her stories and how she grew up and what they went through, the socialism they lived under, everybody's like, there's people in this country. You want to live? Oh, socialism is wonderful. Listen to that podcast. It's going to tell you otherwise.
Oh
Um,
yeah, go to the grocery store and there's bare shelves.
Bare
That's
shelves
socialism.
or there's one item and that's it. You don't have variety like we do here. That's what she's saying. There you come here and there's like thousand different cereals. Back there, only one cereal. I
Take
mean,
it
she
or
said,
leave it.
she did say that the one thing that was kind of nice, they did eat more. Sounded like they cooked more. There wasn't near as the processed crap that we have. That's probably why I got this guy here. So, let me grab this one last question and then we're just gonna go into some squirrel moments and that's another squirrel moment right there. So, what excites you about the most about kitchen knives and now being involved with the Texas Knife Maker Guild,
So
Makers Guild?
because I do like to cook, and in my household I'm the cook. When I'm home, I do the majority of the cooking, and always fascinated with cooking. I've had people teach me how to cook all these different things, and so it was natural for me to gravitate towards the kitchen cutlery. And when I had the opportunity to meet Chris, and it's just, I'd rather make one of those than a hunting knife. And and the TKG is a great organization. Uh, I was fortunate to get elected to the board of directors, so this coming year I will be on the board.
Nice,
And
congratulations.
thank you. And we're excited about the coming year. We're excited about learning how the things work behind the scenes. You know, we can all complain about, I don't agree with what they did. I don't know why they did it this way. And I've been that guy. But I'm also the guy that says, you know what? I'm going to step in there and I'm going to learn why they did it that way, whether I agree or not. And I may agree, but until I know, it's all up in the air.
Well, you don't know until you ask questions or you jump in with both feet, and I kind of think that's how do knife making. I've had few people take my class, and Um, Next thing they know, they've spent a few $1,000s in equipment. But like
That's the great thing about me. I've been 25, 26 years, and my collection of tools was a culmination of that 25 or 26 years. You know, I tell everybody, you don't have to go out and buy a grinder right now.
hmm
You can use a file. There's people on Facebook and YouTube. YouTube's kind of a dangerous place to get distracted because you can watch videos for days. And
Yeah. Yes.
some of them are good. You learn a lot, and some of them show you what not to do. So you have to be able to discern the garbage from the good stuff. But getting back to the TKG, great group of guys. They, I believe in them strongly. I talked about winning that scholarship. Every year they offer two scholarships, $750 to use for a knife education of your choice. And, if it's more than that, then you, of course, have to pick up the rest. If it's less, they'll pay whatever it is. And I was amazed. The guild has somewhere around 500 members. And when I applied, I think the number was about 10 people were all that applied. So this year I've been pushing people. I've been posting on our Facebook page, guys, come on. This is available to all members. If you've been a member of the guild for a year, sign up for it. It's if there's two people going to win $750, and you can use it to, anything knife related. If you want, go get engraving. You want to learn something about engraving. If you want to learn forging, and there's guys inside the TKG that are great teachers. Jeff Davidson puts on classes, and he's a great teacher. I spent a day in his shop. So it's one of those opportunities that I don't think people really know about. I'm going to push it very hard this year.
Nice. Um, One of my projects I want to go, and it was an idea I came up with a few years back, and then the Beat the Smith idea came up where people that took my class came back and challenged me. Like a couple guys took my class, they came in, they volunteered. And I told them it's like that's a crazy idea. I'm in. So we built a few knives. We got one that was where we're selling coins to each coin's $50. That money goes to a friend of mine to help travel costs, offset the travel costs for his son who's going to England for school. And I got several other nights we're going to do. But we decided to go back from that because Beat the Smith was just basically Smith versus Smith, and that we kind of restrained ourselves to that. And I wanted to build up a little more, back to the idea of the American Bladesmith show or TV show, whatever you want to call it. Um, and I want not only I want to do is like feature my shop what I do, but I want to show more than what Forge and Fire did. I want to show like our conversation here. I want to go and show the knife making world to people that yeah, they might go to a knife show or maybe catch at somebody's shop or something, but I want to show them that who we are, show them the brotherhood and sisterhood of it, because we are family. When we went to, I took my buddy down to Texas, down there to Belleville, to the Texas Select Show down there, put on by Cowboy and Eileen of Phoenix Knives. Shout out to them. And after we're traveling home and everything, it's just he's never been to an actual knife show. He's been to gun shows and such like that, went walking around, but never been that involved in it because he came down and helped me out because I've taught him, kind of took him on as apprentice and shown him the ropes and everything. He'd come down, help me get ready for the show and such. And I asked him, it's like, so what did you think? He says, well, I knew it was a show, but I didn't realize it was a family reunion. um,
Definitely. And one of our main hammer in happens in April this year. Don't have the dates exactly, but it'll be the Flatland Forge at Jim Poor's shop. And one of our big sponsors is Gents Knife Making Supply, and they do a everyday carry challenge. And I wasn't there last year; I was working, but it can be any everyday carry knife. I think the blade length has to be no longer than 4 inches. It could be a factory knife. It could be something you made. And they set up a little obstacle course of cutting. And really, really a neat thing to do.
I need to do that. I've been going to do, I mean, a couple of shows I've run to, they've had their little optical course and everything else. And, um, I don't know, guess Ben's a little too chicken. I guess I need to step up the line and just go have, do it and have fun. Not necessarily, as a competition, but just see what your own blade can do. Because, I make knives. I don't really hold on to them. I've got a chef knife in my kitchen that was Spicy Mike made. I bought from him, and then the rest of it's just fiberware steak knives. And everyone gives me shit. It's like, oh, you're a knife maker and you don't have your own knives. Like, well, I sell them, pay my bills, and even if the one-off knives, I don't like to keep them around because I'll sit there and stare at it, or I'll tear it apart, or I'd rather just sell it, get it out of the shop, or keep a little money off of it.
The last knife I made myself, I saw a cousin and said, "You need this knife." So I don't carry one of mine. I need to. I've got one on the bench right now. It's supposed to be mine, but we'll see.
Same. I don't ever, about somewhere and everybody's like, who's got a knife? And they all turn to me. I'm like, what? Don't you got a knife? No. Well, you're a knife maker. You're supposed to have a knife. It's like, maybe you should buy one, order a knife, and you'll have a knife. I know a guy. I could probably hook you up. Uh, um, I've a friend of mine here locally. Josh Eubanks. His episode drops the end of the month. Um, And that episode might be a little low on volume. He was kind of a low talker, and I think I cranked the volume up on that. Thanks for that feedback. Also, if you anybody's listening to this or watching this, if you see any issues with, like James pointed out, hey, the volume was kind of in and out, let me know. Not, it's like, knife making. If you're doing something and you've done it so much you don't really know you're doing it wrong on a particular style. Somebody else that makes that sell really well can point that out to you. Let us know if there's something I can do to improve the show, especially maybe keep the squirrel moments down, but especially with audio and visual and such. Like, drop a comment, send us a message. So, sorry, I had to throw that out there. Thanks again for your input. I really appreciate that. Um,
Definitely.
my goal is where I'm in a little section of my house here. My bedroom's over here on the side. I got a wall dividing up this. I'm going to lower my ceiling, put some padding up, changes up, and I'm actually going to have my buddy Dan redo this. This is an AI image right here. I'm going to have him draw it up. I'm going to put a poster on there. I've got the bardiche that I made on Forge and Fire. I'm going to decorate my wall behind me and make this an actual studio. I got me a few Star Trek models in here. I'm going to get some more and throw in there because I'm just weird.
So they allowed you to keep the weapon you made.
Second place, I took second on that. Season 4 on up, they started doing that because they literally ran out of room to store stuff. Instead of keeping both weapons, they decided, you know what, we're going to send this back to you after your episode. I got mine back, so um, I need to get a hold. I had an idea. I'm going to get a hold of my buddy. He's got a Grinch outfit, and I've got a Santa Claus outfit. I thought it'd be kind of fun to go chase him around with the bardiche. Get back here, my son! Do a video of it, but so. Um, Yeah, is there anything else you want to share? I mean, we kind of touched on the knife making and where you come, where it started. Is there anything you want to share, about your faith? I mean, we're recording this a couple days before Christmas. This won't come out till next year for season 2. But is there anything you want to kind of touch on or something inspiring? Let's get into the season. You know what? Just because it's coming out, we're going to do this. Why not? Get festive. Ho, ho, ho.
Really, we touched on all of it, but I can't stress enough the community that we are part of. Just like talking about Emily, and what she did for those that were in need, doing raffles and auctions and stuff like that. And when it came her time in need, the community stepped up and helped her get back home for her mom. And if we can't do those things, what good are we? And I was very proud that we were able to help where we could. And sometimes we're able to help greatly, and sometimes it's just a few bucks. But every little bit helps. And the community. We went to Blade Show last year, me and Jason Newman and CJ, and it was an experience. I'd never been there before. Uh, it was overwhelming at first. Walked in that first morning, and I didn't know what to do. Had a great time. Got to meet people that I'd talked to over the phone and bought stuff from. Got to meet Brian House and people like that. I own two of his kit grinders, so it was quite the experience. And I encourage anybody that has never been to Atlanta for the Blade Show. It's definitely worth the trip.
Especially the after party. I quite
The
enjoyed
after
that.
the after party's great. Uh, you get to see people, and it's more of an informal setting. They're not trying to, you always feel guilty. You go up to someone's table and you may or may not be wanting to purchase anything. You want to visit and stuff like that. And I feel guilty because I don't want to take them away from people that might purchase from them. So the after party's great.
Yes. Um, Had a little too much fun a few times myself, but now I'm 40 now and such. Starting to figure out that partying is for the birds.
It takes a lot longer to recover the older you get.
This is true. This is very true. But it's good time. I'm sitting in there and doing this podcast and starting to learn and listen to other podcasts. So I'm starting to shut up and listen a little bit more. It's something I used to not do. Um, but there's a lot of great information sitting there and listening to everybody talk about their knives. Or, I mean, there is literally. You think you left the knife show in the room? No, no, there's knives everywhere in this. Whiskey and good beer and good food and good friends and just comparing knives and talking chatting it up. Sometimes it gets
I
a little deep. Go ahead.
squirrel a little bit. We talked about my faith and we talked about cooking, and I love to barbecue.
Ooh,
So
I talk of this.
last year, before Christmas, I'd started looking for a big smoker, and I found one on Facebook Marketplace. It was $4,500, and that was a fair price for it. But I just wasn't ready to pull the trigger yet. It was probably September when I first saw that smoker, and I sat there and watched it and watched it and watched other ones, and December 22nd last year, I woke up that morning and saw that same smoker that was $4,500 at $2,500.
Ooh, bargain.
And I was at work. I was 250 miles away and couldn't leave to come get it. So I called my preacher and I called my wife and said, "Y'all go get this smoker." And so they went and got it. And I sent one of the guys from the rig that wasn't doing anything, and he picked it up. I paid him $100 plus gas money. And for Christmas, I cooked a brisket at the rig.
Nice.
That, and I use it for the church. We cook for the church all the time. And we talked about those little God winks and things that we believe are divine interventions. I believe that smoker was meant for me, but it was not until it was the right time to buy it. And,
I
and
think
that gentleman asked my preacher here about 3 months ago if I'd be willing to sell it back. Preacher said, "I highly doubt it. We use it a lot."
that's awesome. That's something I never really got into. I got a barbecuer out here. I like to barbecue a little bit. I am no expert. I bet you I've done a little bit of videos and everything else, and I'm sure people just cringe. I cook a pretty good meal, but I cook it my way. I'm not really big on it. I've got friends that get really into it. I've done one brisket. We used my mom's smoker. A buddy of mine kind of walked me through it. It turned out really good. I did
No,
probably go ahead.
no, nobody is a bigger snob about brisket than Texans.
Yes. And I also found out if you don't pronunciate and say Seguin, Texas properly, it don't matter if you, I mean, you can say it in another state. So a Texan's going to step up and correct you. No, that's not how you pronounce it. This is how, believe me, I got my butt chewed a few times. I have a good friend. Shout out to Jose. Jose. I can't forget his, remember his last name, the life of me. He does Third Day Coffee Seguin. So if you like good coffee, he's a veteran. He does his own roasting. He's out of Seguin, Third Day Coffee. Seguin, great coffee. You can even call him up and order some of mine with my label on it. And if you like good coffee, they're Navy
I
veteran. And
believe that I believe that's where the Burnt Bean Barbecue Company is,
I think so too. I believe so.
and they were number one Texas Monthly.
Nice.
So
He's been roasting for the last few years. He's got him an old ambulance. They're turning into the he's using it as part of his ministry. He's becoming a preacher, a pastor, however you want. It's all the same to me. So he's doing that in his ministry and everything else through the coffee, and he's a great guy. So if you're ever down in Seguin, um, find third
I'll,
day, you can find that on Facebook. So good guy.
I'll have to go check him out. I've been wanting to go check out the Burnt Beans, so
There
now
you
I
go.
have two places there to check out.
He does it out of his backyard. So just catch him on Facebook and send him a message. Tell him Mike sent you. He's a good guy. Um, third day coffee Seguin. There you go.
I'll
Uh,
look him up.
so I had him on a previous episode when I first started when I was only doing like 30, 40-minute blocks. And then I was like, you know what? We're going to do this. We need to expand our time. And I went ahead and purchased so I could do Zoom, purchased a year worth of Zoom and everything else I needed to do this. And it's been a lot of fun. My goal is to go for 1 year and see where I'm at in a year and then go from there. I'm really enjoying it. It helps me out. I love making these connections. I want to give people like me an opportunity to talk about what they do, share what they do, share a message, um, and yeah, let the Almighty kind of direct it as well. So somebody asked me once, says, "What are you doing? You got questions, this, that, and your research?" Like, not really. It's kind of off the cuff and probably a lot of ADHD squirrel.
You,
Um,
you mentioned Joe Rogan. That's what Joe does. You know, he doesn't have a script. He just talks, and I think that's the most genuine way to have a conversation. You know, we don't have a script. Let's just talk about whatever comes up.
and I try to come up with a few questions. I took what you wrote to me and I use it. I use ChatGPT from because me and the English language is not friends. I flunked English in school through schooling. My spelling sucks. So ChatGPT is a great tool for me for when I'm doing this. And that's where those questions and I threw it in here. Give me 5 questions that go along with this, da da da, and it kicks that out for me. Takes a lot of stress off of thinking for me, but I still have to put that prompting in right to get where I'm, if that makes any sense.
It's a great tool. I've recently learned how to use it. I'm kind of technologically impaired, so
Same.
it's definitely a great tool.
I actually have a knife here that I built. One of my goals, and it's on my to do like my dream wheel or whatever you want. I used to have it up, but I need to get it back up. You know, you put your goals on your goal list. And one of my goals is to get on Joe Rogan's podcast. I've got a knife. I've had it for about a year now. I got to get it sharpened. I haven't sharpened it yet. It's a Kumai blade. I'll send you some pictures after this of it. But
Yeah,
my goal is to. I've got an address for the his comedy club, and the manager. I'm going to put the head manager's name and his name. Send it down there with a nice little letter in there. I remember watching Joe Rogan clear back on news radio back in the '90s when he first got his start, and then a little bit of then a big then after news radio it was Fear Factor. Do you remember that show?
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
good show.
Fear Factor, and I stumbled into his podcast when they would carry it on. Oh, it was the Opie and Anthony channel, and on Saturdays, it says that's when I realized when podcasting back in 2012, 13, right in there, they'd play his an episode of his song on the satellite, and I had a flip phone still at the time. Cell phones like this were barely coming out. The smartphone back in the day. Um, and I didn't start really listening to his podcast up till a couple years ago. And him and Sean Ryan, them my goal is to get on there because that would be fun to go have that conversation wherever it goes. But that's my goal. And everyone's like, oh, I don't think you're going to get on there. It's like, if I don't, I don't. But hey, if I do, you won't know about it till afterwards.
I was listening to that podcast with the doctor earlier that you had done, and y'all were talking about Joe Rogan and how he talks about the psychedelics, and I don't remember the exact name of it, but I've
Right.
listened I've listened to Joe talk about that stuff for the last few years, and he makes a great point. And we got so tied up in classifying all these drugs, and I'm one of those that believes that marijuana is probably safer than alcohol.
I agree.
Now, we talked about Dwayne Duchesne. One of his daughters she had some health problems, and she was basically wasting away, and you know she used marijuana to help her, and it was that or using opioids over the count, through a prescription. And so I believe there is a need for, and recreational. I don't see a problem with it either, because you know most people that get stoned crawl over in a corner and get the munchies and pass out.
Hey, they help keep the pizza industry going nice and strong.
So I'm not against it. I myself, even if it was legal here in Texas, I wouldn't take it because of my occupation. It just wouldn't be allowed.
Mhm.
And I'm not a smoker, so if I was to do anything, it'd probably be an edible or something. But even then, with my career, I couldn't.
I never tried any. I was too scared to try anything. I did drink a little bit, and when I was a teenager, I mean, cigarettes, such like that stuff didn't scare me. My mom was a deputy sheriff was growing up, but because what never tried it growing up. I didn't try any marijuana products until I was 34 years old and was done driving. That was an interesting experience. Um, Best sleep I've had in a long, long time. Um, as a therapeutic, Lord, we're going to use big words, people. Work with me here. No, Lord, I give up. As medicine, yeah, I mean, people want to smoke it recreational, whatever. I think some people get a little want to disappear from reality, whatever. That's their choice. I kind of have a libertarian mindset, but if you look at, you're hearing about fentanyl and the opioids and, in my area, meth, opium, no, not opium, not opium. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Oh, anyway, there's a lot of drugs, stuff like that. I mean, that stuff's just, meth is terrible stuff. And people think that marijuana is just as bad. It's like, no, it's not. I mean, I know a few people that consume cannabis their whole lives and they still have all their teeth. I know people that done meth that don't have all their teeth, let alone half their jaw. That stuff just that dissolves your body up. But like you're saying, Joe Rogan, I listened to that episode with Rick Perry. I can't think of the other gentleman's name. I think he's from Tennessee or Kentucky, and listen about their mission about getting DMT and ibogaine, and there's one more I can't think of it. Get it legal here. Texas has got an initiative to start making it where they can use it, especially for veterans. I'm a son of a veteran. Growing up, I didn't really understand what Dad was going through until later in life when my friends went over to Afghanistan and Iraq, and they came back and went through their therapy. Vietnam veterans did not have any of that. I knew a lot of it. Vietnam veterans are growing up. A lot of them are not as. Dad's in pretty good shape for his age. He's 76. Still going, still trying to do stuff that he did when he was 30. He can do it. It takes him a lot longer, but he probably really shouldn't do because he's wore out for 2, 3 days afterwards. Um,
Does your dad still forge?
oh yeah, still forging. I got him finally. He's ran a Coke forge since I've been born. Before that, grew up on a coal forge. And so I got him working. He does always forging out of a little devil forge for always blade making and forging that out and to save the coke because coke is takes about $800 to $900 a ton to get it out here from Georgia. We used to be able to get it for 300 locally from a place up north, but thanks to COVID, that went out. So I got him doing that. That way he can save the coke for making the steel. Well, I got tired. I've gotten a little bit lazy because I got tired of cleaning that forge out about every third full to get that clinker out of the way so you have a good hot clean fire. I mean, I don't mind coke forging. I just kind of I've been making knives since I was 10. Did a lot through high school, paid for my truck, a lot of and chasing girls with that money. Made really good money. Used to go to Vegas every 3, 4 months to shows, and you walk out of there 2 or 3 grand, as a teenager per show. And so, growing up in Sevier County, it's build your trucks and chase girls. So, kind of wish I would have saved that money I chased on girls and done a little bit better investing. But hey, young and dumb, right? Um,
Absolutely.
but I I'm kind of drawn to that. I kind of want to go through some of those treatments. I've looked at the packages they offer. You have to go to Tijuana to do it, and I think that's stupid. They only had classified that as Schedule One in the '70s to pretty much to get rid of the hippies, peace, love, make love, not war, because they want that engine, the military industrial complex of Vietnam, and keep that going and everything else. That was to I mean, I don't know if you've ever listened to Joe Rogan on some of those episodes that talked about that, and you look at the history, it's like, yeah, that's why they demonize all these drugs, the psychedelics, um, to put that out so they could outlaw them and everything else, and they very bad education on that, reefer badness. All you watch all that stuff come out of the '30s because basically 3 companies wanted to get hemp outlawed because about that time they figured out how they could make the hemp fiber manufacture that more into cloth or paper, and so they bought off a couple senators to come up. Reefer Madness did the propaganda campaign, and it worked because people were kind of dumb. um,
Very gullible.
yes, definitely very gullible, even myself. But I kind of there's I lost my middle child, my firstborn child, 16 years ago, and there's trying to work through stuff, and I've made peace with it and move forward. A friend of mine's gonna come on here where we're gonna go through that whole story and kind of share that. I want to take that story and you hopefully do some good for other people that might have went through that situation. But kind of feel like I need to go through this process to pay. I say basically a reboot my brain or whatever. I've got my issues and such, but will it work? I don't know, but it's something I would like to go through and experience that to have a bit, not only to maybe help me personally with some of the issues that I have, um, but with mental health and such. But to have a little more education, understand that, and maybe help start campaigning to get that legal in our own country because I mean, why should we spend thousands of dollars sending our veterans to a foreign country to get the help they need here? We need to do it here. This should be available for them or first responders. Um, if you, like you said with Dr. Abbott there, where he's talking about ketamine treatments, that's legal here. I think I'm going to go through it. I'm going to start there and work forward. Maybe that'll work for me. Um, but one thing and that's another thing about my podcast here, and I've said it before, is I want to bring that mental health awareness. We have makers burnout. I mean, there's a burnout in all sorts of life. Being a business owner, you know, if I don't make a knife, the lights go out. If trying to keep that hustle, keep those sales coming in. Um, a year ago, about 2003 into 2004, I was doing really good up till 2000, the fall of 2003 into 2004. Of course, the Biden economy kind of kicked in, inflation went through the roof. Nobody really had extra money to buy the knife classes or a knife. Let me grab a drink real quick here. And for me, I knew it was coming. I procrastinated a little bit. I should have went to, I had my CD. I went and got my CDL back. I just dropped it down to Class D for a little while because I didn't want to get a medical card. I had up to 5 years. I got it back. Should have went about the bullet earlier, but I went into another company. Finally got in there, and my pride got in my way, and because it was fun. I mean, I could make knives, I could teach classes, and I was paying my bills for doing it myself. That was awesome. It was a very great blessing, but it kind of tied off. But I was starting to get that burnout too. In a way, that last year was more of a I look back now, and I think I could start to see it's like it was more of a blessing. I needed to go through that to realize some stuff for myself, and it's okay to do what I need to do to keep the lights on, take care of my kid and such. If that makes any sense.
Sure it does.
I want to take this into tie that in. And like you were saying, with all this, all that, have you gone through something similar in your life with that? With your faith, and, changing jobs. Like you said, you went from rig to driving truck and such like that. What kind of challenges have you faced, and what have you done to go forward?
One of the big challenges I went through, as I said in 2014, the oil industry crashed. The economy was doing good, but the oil industry wasn't doing so well. And so I didn't have a job. I couldn't find a job. And so I went to learn how to drive a truck and went from making lots of money to making very little. And the trucking industry is a great way to make but you don't make much money doing it. And it's one of the most regulated industries we have in our country.
Yeah, they say they deregulated it in the 1970s. No.
No, they've made it, if you have a CDL, you better not let go of it because they've made it harder to get the CDL. You have to take
Unless
a,
you're going from another country. Sorry, in California.
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
but if you let your CDL go, you have to go to a school now, and you have to, be in a truck with another driver for I don't know how many hours. They just made it really ridiculous, and now they finally did something about these uh, immigrant drivers that don't have licenses. They're working for companies that don't check, and so they're finally starting to crack down on that. And there's going to be some growing pains in the trucking industry, but I think all in all, it's going to be for the better.
I'm not 100% sure on it, but I did read something or listen to something here a while back. They've closed a lot of those schools. Mandatory going through schools. They found out these people that were owning the schools were actually importing people from other countries, running them through the schools and getting the money, the tax money and everything off of it. A lot of
Yeah,
it turned out to be illegal. I think they've re-geared it a little bit. I think they pulled that requirement back a little bit. But I think you still kind of have to go through a little trick. Our local colleges offer it. But just these big, a lot of these big companies, big names, and I'm pretty sure you know which ones I'm thinking of. They were pulling some really, especially out of California, we're doing some really not so kosher things. So
and it doesn't matter. If they make a new rule, just look at where the money's going. In my industry, of the oil and gas industry, about 8 years ago, they mandated that we had to wear fire retardant clothing. So, where I could buy a pair of Wrangler jeans for 25, $30, now it costs me $90 for a pair of jeans that have this FR sticker on it. Shirts are, anywhere from 75 to $100. It's all a money grab.
and then
And
and I understand PPE, but I mean you can bubble wrap or quarantine in your house for a year. Um, you can try to prevent everything left and right, but life take like quoting out of Jurassic Park, life finds a way. Life has its way and such. I mean, you can do the best you can, but you can
there,
go overboard and start strangling life.
there is not a greater teacher than pain.
Amen to that.
If we protect our youth from every little thing and they never get those bumps and bruises, then when something serious happens,
Yeah, they start suffering with TDS and they call them snowflake. We're seeing that. We're seeing that over pampering. Um, and I hate to say it, but it's a lot of the Gen X, some of the Gen X, whatever kids are and such like that, and their kids, and we're seeing a whole generation of these newer, younger kids coming up are like Gen X. They don't give a shit. They're out there playing in the mud and everything else. But we're seeing that in society right now. When you start live a kind of a sterilized state, let's put stuff in the plug so the kids don't stick something in it. Well, I stuck pennies in the thing. You know what I learned? I ain't doing that shit again. My boy, I adopted my
stupid hurt.
stepson. I adopted my stepson when he was about 18 months. He got a pair of tweezers and did the same thing. When I got back off work, the ex was telling me about it, and I picked it up and I showed it to him, and he screamed, ran in the other room. No, I'm not doing it. To this day, hey, do you want a pair of tweezers and a plug? Oh, hell no. And he says a few other things. He's an adult now. But I like to remind him of that story every now and then. Ask him, hey, did you stick any tweezers to the plug lately? Did you learn
But,
something?
but that's the great thing. Stupid hurts.
Yes. And that's all in all sorts of walks of life. I mean, with money and in your faith and marriage and a lot of everything. Stupid hurts. Stupid tax, as Dave Ramsey calls it. So, well, let's we're about an hour and a half. I don't want to manipulate your time and everything else. I got a couple things I got to wrap up for the night. This time I want to turn this over to you. Is there a message, may it be it faith or your words of wisdom, and then after that, will you mind closing us with a prayer?
Absolutely. So I don't think there's anything more important we can do. My daughter, I was raised in a church. My daughter was raised in a church. I think faith is one of the most important things we do. And, you know, if somebody wants to talk about Jesus with me, I'm always open for it. I'm not going to push it on anyone, but because I think it's a personal decision that everybody has to make on their own. And, you know, we come just getting back to stupid hurts. I mean, sometimes we have to be at those moments of hurting to be ready to receive the message of Christ. And so uh, I think if anybody listening to this is at that point in their life, there are so many people out there, people even people you don't go to a church, and who cares what the denomination or what the name of the church is, reach out to someone of faith and talk to them. You know, if you're hurting, they're there. I think one of the worst things we ever did was start a welfare state. The best welfare program we ever had was the church.
I took the responsibility off the people and put it in the government, and that was by design, in my opinion. I think that was Satan hands at that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to throw that in
No,
there. I agree with you 100%. That took charity should be from the heart, and when your cup overrunneth, give charity. That's up to you. I mean, not it should not be forced to do charity through the government. That should be through the heart, and that's one of I think you show your faith to the Almighty Himself and being charitable. I think it's made us lazy as a society. But anyway, back onto you. I apologize. That's kind of popped in there.
no, that's good stuff. You know, again, I think that if if we'll open ourselves up and allow people, you, if we'll do more listening and allow people to know that we're here if you need to talk, you know, we can talk, we can sit there and listen and let you do all the talking. You know, sometimes just somebody to sit there and just listen means more and can go further. And we don't need to get out our Bibles and beat them over the head with it. I think we've really hurt ourselves as a community of faith by trying to force things down people's throats.
And one of the new terms is church hurt. And I started attending a local church here, Calvary um, Church over in Severe Valley Calvary. I'm probably murdering the name, but after Charlie Kirk assassination, um, you know, anytime on the other side there's something happens, they burn buildings down. I never in my life I thought worldwide, from Korea to New Zealand to England, through different countries out there, people just got together and held candles and they prayed. They shared the gospel. Um, that shook me to the core, and that's like, all right, it's time to. I go once a month. I take my daughter with me once a month, and the rest of the time I watch it on Facebook when they do their thing. I'm not much of a people person, but as you were, I'm going to enter it on that. If you don't know where you're feeling it and you're starting to feel the calling of the Lord, if you don't know where to go to that quiet place, clear your mind, maybe a little fasting and pray. Say, Lord, where do you want me to go? Where can I go? And He's going to show you the way. Um, but that just kind of, as you were talking there, that popped that in. I had to get that out. Again, apologies for interrupting there.
No, that's exactly right. You know, if if you feel led, then follow. And there's a lot of times I do things and I truly believe it's God leading me. And it could be as simple as picking up somebody's tab at the cafe or, you know, just smiling and saying good morning to somebody. You know, we've gotten so bad at manners in this society. Nobody's got manners anymore. And sometimes just giving a smile and saying good morning is just what they needed.
Awesome. Any words of wisdom for people who, whatever walks of life, want to get into making knives or carpentry or whatever. I mean, any words of wisdoms on that?
I think with all the information that's out there, there's a Facebook group. There's do a little research, find your area groups on Facebook or ask those you know. Somebody you know knows a maker. Somebody you know probably has a handmade knife. You know, just like me when I got into it, I knew a girl and her dad had a knife. I knew he had a knife. Went and asked the question, where'd you get it? How can I find it? And, as I said earlier, the answer is always no until you ask the question. Find these makers. Ask them, hey, can I come, can I watch you? Can I, you know, some guys offer classes. Some guys will invite you into their shop, as Dwayne did with me. Just put yourself out there. Allow yourself to be vulnerable, and you know, don't think you're going to hear yes every time. Accept that there are going to be some no's,
And that's
but
okay.
that's okay. Don't stop. If if you hear no 10 times, it's that 11th time that's going to matter.
Well, before we jump into prayer, is there anything that might have popped up through the time here that's screaming in the back of your head you want to share out, or anything else before we close out here for the night?
No, I think we covered quite a wide gamut of things, and it sounds like my daughter's home, so the dogs are about to get stupid on us.
Hey, that's all right. I threw mine out earlier. So, well, all right. Well, if you, sir, I invite you to please, would you share a prayer with us? And
Sure.
for those who might be listening and struggling, I ask you to join us in prayer, even though this is recorded. I find myself a lot of times with the podcast I listen when they do a prayer, it says I stop and pray. They might have said that a while back, but it's still a powerful prayer. And if anybody who's suffering from mental health issues or maybe something needs to reach out to your local church or the national hotline 988. It's kind of one of the things I've dealt with mental health issues, well, and other people I've known and such like that. But, sir, if you please close us out with prayer and we'll call it a night.
Absolutely. Father God, we come to you and we thank you for this time that you've given us to talk about our habits and our hobbies. And we thank you for that. We ask you to reach those that are listening, and if they have hurt, if they have need, to fill those needs, Lord, to help them with those hurts. And if they're wanting to learn a hobby or a craft, put those people in their path that will teach them. Give them the inspiration to move forward, and give them the courage to ask the questions, and open the doors that they need opened, Lord. And I thank you for this time. I thank you for the opportunity to come before you, and to learn, and to have a conversation. And I think this is a great thing that you've allowed us to do. And I thank you. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Well, appreciate it there, James. I hope you keep your blade sharp. And oh, quick question. And I'm
Yeah.
now I'm a knife maker too, and and maybe this. How is your kitchen knives? Are they pretty sharp?
Oh, yeah.
Well, at least
My,
you're one of them. I'm not one of them. I'm very good about sharpening my own shop, my kitchen stuff. I
my,
used to,
I keep, I'll tell you a quick story. I know we're supposed to be closing
oh,
out.
that's okay.
At work, we live on site, and one of my guys that works nights for me, he come in there and he's getting all this stuff put up, and I was out on the rig doing some stuff, and I come in there and he's got his finger wrapped up. What did you do? He said, well, I was using your knife and I was putting my meat up and cutting it up, and it got me. Daniel, you know my knives are sharp.
And that leads into another story about sharp knives. My daughter makes knives. Her boyfriend, they're not 100% dating yet because he hasn't come over and asked me yet, which I'm going to have fun with that. I'm going to make him sharpen a shovel. Um, when he decides to come, she made him a little knife. I helped her out, and he got a little buck and got to use it. His grandmother says, "Oh, that knife was too sharp," and I'm like, most people don't know what a good sharp knife is. And I was like, that's like saying that you have too many guns and too many ammo. No such thing, darling. People are just not used to a good sharp knife. In
I
that,
want, I want to make one suggestion for you, Michael.
yes, sir.
Closing the podcast out with a prayer is great, but you should open it with a prayer.
I know I thought about that and I haven't done that yet. I'm hoping that'll, I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna get me some notes here so I can
But the
keep
reason
myself.
the reason I say that is because, and I'm guilty of it. There at the end of the podcast, some people shut it down before the very end.
Good point. Good point. So I will take that and an advisement and I gotta get me a little board right above my camera here to, so I keep track. And especially another shout out to Emily and Gaston Craft who's dove in and hey, let's hit this guy. I'll reach out for you. I'm like, that's awesome. So if you're looking for a neat handle material and anything else, or a knife maker, or if you're looking for a custom knife, you want some custom scales, reach out to Emily Casting Craft on Facebook and also Emily castingcraft.com. So another shout out to our wonderful friend. Thanks again. I hope you had a good time. If you think of anything or anybody you would like to get on the podcast, shoot me a message. Make that connection. I love making those, as we say in our industry, forging connections, friendships, and our building our families. Uh,
Absolutely.
so I'm gonna once I'll walk us out, and then I'm gonna hit stop the record button. We'll just chat for real quick, and then we'll get out of here. So,
Okay.
as I like to say in the shop, stay sharp, America, and remember, there's only one King, and that's Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. If you haven't met him yet, you got one of these. Pull up some scriptures. I invite you to meet the Almighty. Um, yeah, let him put you in that furnace, that forge. Let him kind of work on you, heat and beating on you. So stay sharp, America. Thanks again. And like, subscribe, share, and comment. Let us know how we're doing. And